Hey people, welcome back to the Zizi Diaries with friends. This is your girl Zizi right here on your screens, and today we are bringing you another banger. Before then, let me introduce my friends. On my right,
NOJ.
Welcome, Energy.
I'm Abena.
Hi, Abena.
Hi.
Hi, Willie.
Hi, Billy.
Welcome, guys.
Hi,
Welcome
NOJ.
back.
You guys.
So today we are bringing you an interesting topic, which is should men be vulnerable? And before we can go ahead and discuss this, I would want to give a definition of what vulnerability means. Okay, so vulnerability is a deeper exposure of one's emotions that leads to ridicule, judgment, or threats. So, going straight to my question, how do you understand vulnerability? So, I want to know your personal idea of what vulnerability.
In my own words, I would say somebody attaching, letting you know their emotions and how they're feeling. Yeah, I think I second to that. I think when you're vulnerable, you're open. So vulnerability brings that openness that it takes away that bridge that you have built. So vulnerability is overcoming that bridge that you have. So that's what I understand it.
I second what I did. I think exposing much about yourself, talking about your privacy to people. When it comes to vulnerability, I would say exposing yourself.
Right. So it's more like giving all your rights to what somebody to be able to know whatever is inside of you, like your emotions and everything.
I mean, not necessarily that, but what you said is true, is linked to it. But I think it's more of um, just letting how you feel, like genuinely how you feel, just come out. You know, when we say vulnerability, it's more of opening up. Yeah. So you opening up, like that door that you have locked up, put that key somewhere, you getting that key and opening that door to let everything else or everyone else, and it is specific. You don't just choose anyone to be vulnerable. Some people just choose like their friends or their I don't know, partners, and so letting that partner go through that door to see you and see what you're going through and what's bothering you. I think it's a bit of trust, like I want to trust this particular person and open up to the person. So in open up, it's like you really, really feel like you want to trust this person, so you're just pouring out from your heart.
So when you were talking, I could hear you say open. So like, what's the difference between vulnerability and openness? Like being open and being vulnerable. Do you think they are the same, or
You can be open up to somebody, but you don't really trust them that what you're like. You don't really fully trust that you letting them know everything. Okay, you can open up to some bridges, like a boundary. You have a boundary to that. But when it comes to vulnerability, like our sister said, you really, really want to pour out to somebody. It depends on the environment, the person, before you do that. I think it intertwine openness and vulnerability. It goes hand in hand. You can't be vulnerable unless you're open. Like vulnerability comes with you opening up. That's why I keep saying opening up. Like when you're vulnerable, you open up. You know, you let out that emotional build up that you have built come out of you. That's you being vulnerable. Let's say I'm going through, I don't know, like relationship stuff. Like I'm going through so much. Maybe my boyfriend is slapping me here and there, or emotionally they're not making me feel some type of way. And I come to you and I'm telling you, again, as she said, the trust is there. And you have to trust somebody to be vulnerable. And I think this leads back to your question. I mean, not the question, the topic. Should men be vulnerable? We live in a society where the guy is vulnerable. We think that they're weak.
what not to cut you off, but we will come to that.
Okay.
Right now, I just want us to know the difference
Being
between
open.
and being vulnerable.
Okay.
And do you have anything to add to it?
I would say for openness is to an extent, but for vulnerable, it's more like putting yourself down for someone to step on you.
Okay.
So it's overexposing yourself.
Mm.
And that is why they were building their point on trust.
Mm.
Because if you can't trust someone, you can't really open up or be vulnerable to the person, exposing to the maximum capacity where as soon as you are done telling the person, well, you feel okay about it. But for the openness, just to an extent, like there's kind of boundary. You don't really go in. Sometimes you have to be testing the waters of the people. So you just tell the person, you just tell this person, just to know whether you can trust the person. So when you now see that you can trust this person, then okay, then you are past the test, then I can now be vulnerable.
Exactly.
So I would say openness comes first to test the waters to see if I can really talk about my issue with the person. Then, if yes, then I'll just let the thing flow. But if no, I'll just go back and continue to
So
do
that means
that.
that with the openness, you are being a bit restrictive with what you share, but with the vulnerability, you go all in.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's a good point. And so our next question is: we are coming now. We're coming to the men, Abina. So, is being vulnerable a sign of weakness as a man? I think you were actually talking about it.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I'll let you continue.
hopefully I can remember what I was saying. As I said, in the society that we live in, or what we have grown up to see, that vulnerability, if a guy is vulnerable, a man, a male is vulnerable, it links to weakness. And I mean, whilst growing up, there's a term, oh, man, so even when someone is dead, it's like a guy that they don't shed tears. They're meant to, I don't know, be the backbone for everyone. You know, like energy is here right now.
Yeah.
If we all start crying, then energy cannot cry. Because if you cries right now, hey, you're part of the girls or something. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, that I don't agree with that. To an extent, because everybody's going through it. Everybody is going through life. And the fact that society has, I don't know how they came up with it, but how they have come up with this saying that men cannot be vulnerable and it's a sign of weakness. I mean, I don't agree with it. I totally disagree with it. I think everyone should be able to express how they feel, whether emotionally, just however they feel, whether them crying, whether them sitting down and just, I don't know, sobbing or whatever they want to do to feel better. I think everyone should be allowed to do that. And so that whole thing linking to the weakness, no. It's all back in the days situation, isn't it? Like we've grown up away from those things. And
I think with what she's saying, that goes back to past issues. Some people have past issues, environment, and their upbringing that makes them to have that kind of like may not be vulnerable, and it shouldn't be so. And I think it's the individual, what you've gone through, that has made them so. But if they should learn and listen and know that, oh, I can trust somebody, I can come out as a man to speak up, and if this person is very trustworthy and is not going to take advantage of it. I think what men are thinking is when they do that, women tend to cause harm to them. And so that's how come some people try to withdraw themselves.
Yeah, but is it just women that you can be vulnerable to?
No, both gender. I think both gender should be able, we should be vulnerable to each other. I think.
So with this vulnerability, I want us to look at the emotional aspect of it, because I know there are different types of vulnerability. Some is the cyber, environmental, physical. But today I just want us to focus on the emotional. So going back to our question, Enoje, do you have anything else to say about?
Is there a sign
is there
of
weakness for a man?
I think it's the consequences or the impact that the person open up or be vulnerable to the person that makes it weak or the person not being weak. So it's not a sign of weakness. When you look at John 11:35, the Bible says Jesus wept. So if
funny enough, I was thinking of that. I was like, Jesus is emotional. He's a man, but he was still emotional.
even to strike the people when they were selling in the church.
In the church,
Yes,
You said that, now one came in mind as well.
So like there are times that you need to be, and there are times that you shouldn't be.
Okay.
It is just about knowing when and how to be vulnerable.
Exactly.
A lot of times people are vulnerable to the wrong environment.
Exactly.
And when
That's it.
because of that it becomes like it's a weakness and all that. I think that the people that think it is a sign of a weakness are people who were in a wrong environment. And there have been so many instances.
Yeah.
So because of the majority, we just hold it. And then men be very careful not to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
As she said, ladies can, but I don't want to even go
To that side, yeah.
Even your fellow men.
Yeah, they can.
Sometimes you become so vulnerable to your fellow men, and the next instant something pops up and the person uses it against you. And most of the times, the people think that okay, today is it's day that we have a good relationship.
Yeah.
The next time, maybe something will happen in the relationship. You know something about me.
Yeah.
You can use it
Against
against
me.
me. So people will now think that okay, then it becomes a weakness. So
Yeah.
then I will not even share it at all. So, but that was thing I'm thinking that it's not a sign of weakness.
That's it.
Depending on the perspective the person is coming from.
So even as you said, depending on the environment. So you classify if the environment, wherever they were vulnerable to, then comes back to bite them. Are you saying that that's classified as weakness? You know, you mentioned that depending on the environment that you sort of become vulnerable to.
Yeah.
So if that happens, and then in your scenario, you said then they might use that against you.
Yeah.
Are you classifying that as weakness?
Yeah, it can be a weakness at the point.
How?
Yeah, simply because when you open up too much to people, and people now get access to you. When you give out information, you have given access to someone or a kind of a person to just do anything to you. The one thing is the fact that the action of the person is showing that the person cares doesn't mean that the person is going to use your vulnerability in a positive way around you. You don't know the mindset of people. I've forgotten the scripture, but it says that Jesus knew the intentions of the people, so he didn't commit himself to them. So if the whole Jesus that we are looking onto didn't commit, it tells you that that particular environment was so toxic that he couldn't commit himself to it. So at that instant, if Jesus would have committed, there will be a weakness there. And the weakness is, my weakness is, it will affect your self-esteem that you will not be able to talk about it again. And now if there is something at core in your life because of your past, it becomes a weak. So that's the aspect of weakness I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I also think that before you even open up to anybody, you have to be very observant.
That's it.
Okay, like who are you speaking to? Maybe one time I speak to energy, and then energy will snub me like, oh, we didn't need their guy. Then another day I come and speak to him about something, just to test the waters, okay? Just to see if he is, going to use this against me, or he is going to actually empathize with me and maybe encourage me, or do something for me to be able to heal from whatever I'm going through. But if he's consistently, pushing me off, then that is not the right person to open up to. I know sometimes some people open up and become very, very vulnerable in their like in their weak state or with their emotional state. Like when the person has become so vulnerable, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you are from, it doesn't matter where the person met you. The person will just pour out like that. So some people are there like that.
I think it also depends on the kind of like temperament. Some people are sanguine, choleric, so it can be that person might be a sanguine person. But freely, they just kind of open up to anybody easily. And so I think that should also be checked, because if you are this type, you should know, like you said, you should know when to talk, when to speak up. And like our brother said, your self-esteem is being hit on. It makes you to have a low self-esteem. Now you're unable to really speak to people because they take advantage of you.
See, wait, what she was saying for the first, look at the story of Samson. Samson was so vulnerable to his wife,
Okay.
somebody that fast.
Okay.
We never witnessed that Samson was having a grudge with Delilah anytime he goes out to kill people because the woman understood his assignments. Now we didn't know, Samson didn't know that Delilah has collected a man.
Right.
So there can be people that will try to come to you because you are testing waters. They can also come in a form that you can really trust them. Just pull yourself out. And by the time you realize, you become the Delilah.
Right.
Because Samson never knew that he has been sold. So after even the first attempt, the second attempt, the Bible said he persistently do that did it. And he just said, okay, yes. Not knowing that even all these two situations, there was other men inside the room, something you know about it.
Yeah.
So you see, so we have to know also that is why men do not open up.
I was about to say
So men are
that with
picky.
what he's saying,
I think men
that
are
you're not
picky.
gonna let people be vulnerable with their wives.
You see, you have to be very careful. I'm saying, you see, you have to be vulnerable.
How careful can you be?
You have to be very careful. See,
Then I think that what will solve that issue if you don't really trust your wife like that. I'm not gonna promote that. Don't share things with your wife or anything like that. But if it's to that extent, then find somebody that you don't know at all. So a professional, a professional. Go to a professional. Go and be vulnerable to that person. Because after speaking to that person, I don't think you see that person.
they have to be vulnerable.
Yeah, of course.
Please be vulnerable to your wives.
Break that intimacy. You know, these things.
They might be Delilah.
To connect the two of you.
Communication.
They might be Delilah.
Especially don't think you can't it depends on the woman you marry. People do not really build that relationship before or friendship before they marry because you can marry someone who everything that happens in the home she takes it out or he takes it out. He meets his friends, they are drinking, he forget about himself. I didn't know this happened. You are just washing your dirty clothes outside. And even you give people the audience to speak words for you. And you go home and you begin to now leave the words of the people, not the words of yours. So they need to be very.
They will just say they are angry. When they are angry,
so whatever happens, you should pray about it.
Yeah, so being vulnerable as a man is not a weakness. It's actually a strength. Okay, it's a strength. So wherever you are, don't keep things to yourself. That is why most men, so many suicidal news that are going around is mostly men because they've been what's the word I'm even trying to use. They've made it in a way where men can't even come up and talk about how they feel or what they are going through. So don't keep things to yourself as a man. It doesn't mean you're weak. I know sometimes it's because of our cultural background, we are being brought up.
I was about to say that it sometimes how we are brought up so influence how vulnerable we are, how open some men are. If you're around or whilst growing up, if you're around people that always encouraged you to tell me what is wrong, like what's going on, tell me how you're feeling, even as a child, tell me how you're feeling. Who made you upset? Like who made you feel upset? If these questions are not being asked in their early ages, as they're growing up, they find it really, really hard because they bottle everything inside them. And they take that and they grow with that, and then that's it. They're never able to open up. And so the first time they do, it might come out as anger. It might come out as they're angry, they're upset. That's because so many stuff has been bottled in, even from childhood. There's so many people that can't talk about their childhood because of how they were brought up, how, you're a guy, don't cry, male, you don't do this, you don't do that, you don't do that, you're not meant to say these things. And it's a problem. It's becoming a problem where now grown up men, they can't even express themselves. They can't tell us how they're feeling, what they want, what they don't want. It's always, what you want, whatever you want, we'll do it. What about you?
People pleasing.
People think they please their women. There's a time where a man needs to be strong, and there's a time that a man needs to be vulnerable. Okay, so how do they balance the two? How can you balance the two? Where there's a time, okay, this time around I need to come up as a man, And there's a time of like, oh, I think I need to pour out my heart to this person and let them know what I'm going through.
I would say life is situational. When it don't happen to you, you don't know what to do.
Okay.
Regardless of the solution you will give it out there, it might not fit into your
Everyone.
problem.
Yes.
So what I can say is life is situational. It's steady. Build yourself. Invest in yourself. So that when the situation comes, you know what to do at a particular time. If you think your instinct is telling you not to open up, be quiet.
Right.
Listen to yourself. You see, one thing that we don't listen to ourselves. Listen to yourself because there's an inner voice in you. If you feel that some people you can feel those who comfortable around them, it can be a sign. I don't say that it's a sign. It can be a sign. But always know when you invest in yourself, you know the right environment to speak up. The right environment
To keep quiet. Yeah.
Okay, that's good point. So, our last question: how can we accept and help men to be vulnerable? So, as a lady, okay, I know most times where men cannot be emotionally vulnerable is because of women.
Hey,
Because of
it's not just women though. I like it.
Some women, not all women.
especially when you go into the relationship aspects of it.
Okay.
Men cannot be vulnerable to their wives or girlfriends or because of partner. Because if I should tell this lady that, oh, I don't have enough money today, it's gonna be a whole thing
A whole
altogether.
problem.
Or maybe the lady might even leave me. So how can we help them to be vulnerable?
I think sometimes women we should calm down to the man's level. I'm not saying reduce your level, but when you meet a man that you want to date or you're in a relationship with, and you realize, like you're saying, the man needs something, but you don't know whether he needs it. You have to create the environment, the atmosphere for him. Don't be like harsh on him. Create the environment, maybe a cool kind of environment where he'll feel free in communicating with you. And so even if he doesn't have something, you will feel it that my guy needs something. And you have a way of communicating. The way you speak, the manner way you speak to him. Oh, do you need anything? So I think it starts out with your communication. Open the floor. Make it easy for him.
Yeah. So yes, it does start with communication. But also we need not to be so judgmental. We have to understand that we're all human beings, and so anything can happen in life. Have a listening ear. One thing that I think I am quite good at is having a listening ear. I don't. It's not everything that you tell me that I have to respond. Sometimes the person who's they just want to speak. And that's all. So all you need to do is be that listening ear for them, and not be judgmental. Start with communication. Have an open mind. Having an open mind is very important. Most of the times we're so fixed on this mindset that we grow up with. Have an open mind. It's not every day quick to action, quick to ask questions, quick to, no, it's not necessary. Like, have an open mind, listening ear, and listen to them. And sometimes that's all they need.
Yeah, we want to feel it.
He's the man.
Yeah, but you see, men are the head. We have ideas, we have running through our minds, and we need a pillow to put our heads on so that we need people to trust. People can protect our image. Because when I'm opening up, I'm being vulnerable. It's a kind of protection. If I see that protection, I always come to
Always come.
because we know that God is easy to pour your vulnerability to God. Is able to protect God. Nobody cares about it. So it is easy to do that. When we have the Spirit of God inside of us, when someone is opening up onto you, we are so vulnerable. Just need security, there's kind of protection, so that's and it builds that kinship in us. It makes us do more. But when we realize that it's not happening, then we give it to ourselves.
Okay, guys, this is the end of our discussion. I want to know if you want another episode of Should Men Be Vulnerable? Just let me know at the comment section. Until then, it's
It's easy.
peace out.